Welcome. In this video, we're going to be looking at how do we predict per cap spend based off attendance and predicting the number of cookies that will be consumed by the total number of people in suites and the suites used for a game. Okay. So with that said, we're going to be using this data analysis tool right up here. If you don't have that, you need to come up here to Tools, go to Excel Add-ins, click Analysis Tool Pack, and click OK. If you still don't see that, you're probably not using the actual Excel version of software on your computer. You need to go to your email. There's a little 4 squares thing on the left. Click that and download Microsoft Excel to your computer. Use the actual software, or else you will not be able to do this. So, with that being said, let's keep moving forward. We're going to click Data Analysis, and the first one, we're going to figure out per cap spend and attendance. Okay, so we click Data Analysis. What we're going to do is called a regression test. If you think back to algebra, where you're plotting lines of best fit on a graph, it's essentially what you're doing with regression, except you're plotting all these points and you're trying to find the sweet spot to hit them. Okay, so that's where we'll be. Now, let's look what we can do. Click OK. Now, in this one, the Y and X range. The Y is what you're trying to predict. X is what you're using as your dependent variable. Y is your dependent variable because it depends on your independent variable, which is your X. Okay? So in this one, to make it more visually appealing, the Y, we're going to look at attendance. Okay? I'll explain why when we're done. Per cap spend is going to be here. You just click and drag down for your X. Okay? Come back here. Click that. You're going to click the labels, and we hit OK. Then we come down here, we have this results, but first, put in your tab, per cap regression. Okay, and then take this and drag it over here. Now we're there. Now let's look at these numbers. What do these numbers tell us? What this tells us is that per cap spend is predicting 0.95 or 9.5% of the value of per cap spend is predicted by attendance. Okay, so close to 10% of it's predicted. Now the variance that's in there. So all we're trying to do is explain the variance in a variable. Okay, what makes it change? When we come down, we see that our intercept is not so. Really, this model is not a significant model, so there's not a whole lot of weight to it. Partly because what we can see here is this variable here, even though it says per cap spend, we know that for every increase in $1 of per cap spend on average at our game will result in an increase in 292 fans. So that's what our target is. We want to increase that per cap spend. We need to increase it by 292 fans. Okay, our intercept, which would be our average, where they equal each other, is 8,000 fans at our game. Okay, so we know where we're at. So that's that one. Now, let's look at our next one. We come back here to week 3. Let's see if we can predict the number of cookies consumed. Okay, now, your question says to predict it based off the total number of people in the suites and suites used per game. To do a regression model, you have to have variables that cannot be confined. Okay, so they can go on for infinite times, right? And at a game, we're confined by our suite numbers. We have a total of 12 suites at a game. Okay, so here's 12. Those suites can hold a max of 100 people per suite. Okay, so we can't do it. That's a simple count. What we can do this regression, so we're only going to use 2 variables here, is the total in the suites. So the total people, yes, it's confined at 1,200 people. But that count could be anywhere in between. You could have 12 suites occupied, but you might only have 10 people in there in each suite. Or you have games where you have 100 people in there. Okay, so let's do another regression. Let's try and predict the cookies. So this one, we're going to come here to cookies. We're trying to predict cookies here. Look at this. We'll drag it down. Bingo. Come back here, and we're going to predict total and sweets. Labels again. Okay. What this tells us, I'm going to do our tab again. I'm going to do cookies. We'll leave it here, and we're going to drag this over. Okay, so with cookies, what this tells us is that cookie consumption is highly linked to people in sweets. So what we know is people like to eat cookies while they're in the sweets. Our model predicts total in sweets predicts 87.6% of the variance in cookie consumption. Logical, right? They are related. So what we know is that for each increase in 1 unit of person in a sweet, cookies increases by 0.9. How about that? Right? So that means if I have, and we can do this math, if I have 100 people in a suite times 0.9, I'm going to probably need to put out 90 cookies. So instead of putting out 100 cookies, where I might waste 10, I'm going to put out 90 where I probably waste 0. And that's better for you because you're not wasting product, right? There's that. And here's our video on predictions.